A whirlwind romance, a hasty wedding, and a honeymoon that turned into a nightmare, secrets, suicide notes, and a burning cottage. As whispers of foul play and questionable motives swirl around this case, one can't help but wonder, how does a love story unravel into such a hauntingly obscure tragedy? In post-war Toronto, a love story spiraled into a nightmare with the sudden death of Christina Kettlewell, just 8 days after her wedding. Christina, a vibrant 22-year-old with a promising career and loving family, was found on May 20th, 1947, dead from drowning in just 9 inches of water, 150 feet from her honeymoon cottage. For over 75 years, this case has remained unsolved, with numerous theories, but few answers. Join us as we dive deep into the tragic case of Christina Kettlewell, exploring the eerie details of her brief marriage, the suspicious circumstances of her death, and the lingering mystery that captivates and perplexes to this day. Christina Macron was born on August 7, 1925, in a Toronto suburb to devout Catholic parents. With a close-knit family, including her sisters Sophie and Helen, Christina was a bank clerk known for her strong work ethic. Her parents hoped she'd marry someone of their faith and were fond of her previous fiancé, Eddie Scora. However, their engagement ended for unknown reasons. By 1947, Christina, now Chris, was dating John Ray Kettlewell, a 26-year-old war veteran. John Ray and Christina had known each other since 1942, starting as friends and possibly developing a casual romantic connection. Their relationship became more serious between 1945 and 1947, but Christina's family disapproved. They had two main concerns. John wasn't Roman Catholic, which conflicted with their devout beliefs, and they found Ronald Berry, John's best friend and roommate, unsettling and overly involved in their relationship. The family even suspected Ronald of having feelings for Christina, though they had no evidence. Ronald Berry, or Ronnie, was a charismatic and versatile individual who, after moving from Naples to Toronto in 1926, worked in various fields, such as ballroom dance instructor, stenography, insurance, and construction. Despite his charm, he faced significant financial difficulties by late 1946. His business was in chaos with several unfinished homes and multiple loans against the same asset. By 1947, he had not earned any money for the first 5 months, and his construction company had collapsed. He and John Ray were living in a single room in a boarding house. In 1943, with the war in full swing, 22-year-old John Ray was drafted into the Canadian Dental Corps, serving until June 1946. During his time away, John wrote letters to his friends Ronnie and Christina, who spent a lot of time together, hitting the movies and dinners. They kept each other company, eagerly awaiting John's return, all while making it clear that their bond was strictly platonic. As John served overseas, Christina grew closer to Ronnie, even discussing her doubts about John's feelings due to his delayed proposal. When John returned, the trio spent a lot of time together, sparking rumors about their relationships. Christina moved in with John and Ronnie in Mimico, ignoring her family's concerns. Her parents were wary of John's commitment and Ronald's constant presence. Despite their disapproval and her own reservations, Christina continued her relationship with John, with Ronald always in the background. In April 1947, John proposed, and Ronnie took charge of the wedding arrangements, proudly serving as the best man. On May 12, 1947, John Ray and Christina decided to elope, fearing that Christina's family might try to stop the wedding. Ronnie, who had originally planned their wedding for May 13th, quickly arranged for them to marry that same day. Father Markle performed the ceremony ahead of schedule. After eloping, the couple celebrated at Ronnie and John Ray's one-bedroom apartment in Toronto, where they were joined by friends for shopping and festivities. On May 16th, the trio drove up to Seven Falls in Ronnie's car and then took a boat to the River Villa cottage. Ronnie claimed he was only there to help with the luggage and planned to leave after the weekend. However, Christina started acting oddly, having random crying fits and staring blankly. Concerned for her well-being, Ronnie decided to stay and keep an eye on her. On May 20th, during the honeymoon, Ronnie left John and Christina at the cottage and went sunbathing by the Severn River. When he returned around 6:30 p.m., he found the cottage in flames. Ronnie dashed inside, calling for John and Christina, and eventually found John, who was barely conscious and bleeding from a head wound. After getting John to safety, Ronnie went back inside to find Christina, but couldn't locate her. Despite his efforts to extinguish the fire, the cottage was fully engulfed within an hour, leaving only ruins. Ronnie's neighbor, Major Lawrence Scotterfield, arrived by boat and helped take John and Ronnie downstream to Ronnie's car. Ronnie drove John to the hospital and reported Christina missing to the police. That evening, neighbor Melville Sweet, along with his daughter, found Christina's body in a small cove about 150 feet from the cottage, face down, in shallow water. She was barefoot and still in her pajamas. Her body was untouched by the fire, which added an eerie twist to the investigation, raising more questions than answers. After Christina's death, 3 handwritten suicide notes surfaced, allegedly written by her and found with Ronnie. The notes expressed despair and frustration, but didn't clarify her death. 2 of the notes mentioned an attempt on John's life and were authenticated by a handwriting expert. Although the blackmail story seemed far-fetched to the police, Ronnie had some supporting evidence. Christina had written to a friend about being harassed by 4 men at a church dance, and Ronnie had an IOU for $15,000 signed by Christina. While John was unconscious in the hospital, Ronnie Berry, underwent a grueling 13-hour interrogation, providing 2 conflicting statements, one 3,000 words long. Police scrutinized Ronnie's connection to John and Christina, suspecting he might have arranged their marriage for ulterior motives. But Ronnie denied any involvement. Ronnie claimed Christina had been paying off a blackmailer who had assaulted her, borrowing $2,000 monthly. She eventually said the blackmailer released her and returned $1,000. Ronnie claimed he gave her an additional $5,000 and asked her to deposit in the bank. He alleged that when he next visited them, he found the money was gone. John had been drugged by Christina, and Christina was writing a suicide note, which he talked her out of before arranging their wedding to stabilize her. Regarding the River Villa cottage incident, Ronnie said he went to help with luggage, but stayed because Christina was acting oddly, crying and staring blankly. He also tried asking her about the $15,000 she owed him, but got no response. On May 20th, Ronnie found John unconscious, likely drugged, and Christina writing a letter to their landlady. Ronnie noticed blood on John's pillow and a cut on his head, but got no explanation from Christina. The cottage soon caught fire. Ronnie saved John, but couldn't find Christina, and conveniently grabbed a bag with papers, including suicide notes. Later, Ronnie gave a different version, saying he was sunbathing when he noticed the fire and found John dazed inside. In both versions, he managed to save the suicide notes. After being treated for burns, shock, a head injury, and apparent drugging, John was released from the hospital. He was questioned for 3 hours, but didn't offer much, insisting he couldn't remember anything past 11 a.m. on the day of Christina's death. He recalled putting wood in the stove, having breakfast, and feeling ill before passing out. The next thing he remembered was Ronnie waking him up and telling him the cottage was on fire. On May 26th, Christina was buried at St. Leo's Church, where she had been married just 2 weeks earlier. John attended the funeral, while Ronald stayed in the back with his sister. Christina's father sobbed loudly, while rumors of an imminent arrest circulated, but none came. The case's complexity and public interest made it tough for authorities to find solid evidence, despite exploring numerous theories. Investigators uncovered a financial twist in the case when they found out Ronnie had taken out multiple insurance policies on both John and Christina, with double indemnity clauses that would pay out more in case of accidental death. These policies, taken out just before Christina's death, raised suspicions. Ronnie had also recently insured his own cabin for $5,000. Additionally, there were reports of missing cash, valuables, and even Christina's wedding ring, suggesting possible financial fraud. The timing of these policies made investigators question whether Christina's death was orchestrated for profit. In the 1940s, societal views on sexuality were harsh. Especially for immigrants, the relationship between John and Ronnie raised eyebrows, leading to the theory that they may have used Christina as a cover-up, with her death as part of a scheme for money and secrecy. John initially admitted to having an affair with Ronnie, only to retract his statement during the inquest. After the inquest, neither John nor Ronnie faced charges, though Ronnie later dealt with immigration issues related to his sexuality. John led a quiet life until his death in 1998. Major Lawrence Scarterfield, present during the fire, claimed he didn't see Christina's body while fetching water to fight the flames. This opened speculation of a possible third party, perhaps an ex-fiancé, the man who assaulted Christina, or someone completely unknown who may have been involved in her death. The lack of conclusive evidence leaves plenty of room for theories about unseen players in this tragic story. An autopsy on Christina showed no signs of physical assault, burns, or smoke inhalation. Curiously, despite her fall from a 150-foot height over rocky terrain, her feet were completely unscathed. A strange detail. The autopsy tentatively suggested drowning as the cause of death, though the conclusion was not definitive. Blood tests revealed trace amounts of codeine in Christina's system. John, however, had much higher levels, leading the coroner to suspect Christina had ingested more codeine before her death, which broke down afterward. In June 1947, an inquest led by coroner Dr. G.C. Johnston examined Christina's death, focusing on suicide notes, financial motives, and testimonies. The investigation faced challenges, including weak evidence and elusive suspects, making it difficult to prove foul play. Although insurance policies and potential motives were considered, no clear findings emerged. The inquest left more questions than answers about Christina's death. The tragic case of Christina Kettlewell, known as the 8-Day Bride, remains a perplexing mystery in true crime history. Her brief marriage and sudden unexplained death continue to spark intrigue and speculation. The case highlights the complexities of human motives, financial stress, and media sensationalism. Christina's mysterious death serves as a reminder of the ongoing pursuit of truth and justice, reflecting the enduring human struggle to make sense of the inexplicable.